Private John Martin, originally named Giovanni Martino, was an Italian immigrant who served as a trumpeter in the 7th Cavalry Regiment of the U.S. Army. He gained recognition as one of the few survivors of the Battle of the Little Bighorn, also called Custer's Last Stand, on June 25, 1876. Born in Italy in 1852, Martin relocated to America and enlisted in 1873. Assigned to the 7th Cavalry, he participated in multiple campaigns, including the ill-fated clash at Little Bighorn. During the battle, Lieutenant Colonel George Custer sent him to deliver a critical message to Captain Frederick Benteen, marking Martin among the last to see Custer alive. His survival and later testimony provided invaluable historical insight. Around 8 a.m. on June 25th, Captain Benteen ordered me to join General Custer as his trumpeter and aide. The regiment had paused to prepare coffee after an overnight march, stationed miles from the divide between the Rosebud and Little Bighorn rivers. Signs of nearby indigenous forces were clear. Abandoned campsites had been spotted over recent days, and we were tracking a trail from the Rosebud. Earlier, we'd encountered freshly skinned buffalo remains. Upon reaching the general, he acknowledged me with a brief nod. He was deep in discussion with a scout called Bloody Knife. Bloody Knife warned of a massive village in the valley, home to hundreds of Taipeis and countless Sioux warriors. I remained nearby, catching fragments of their exchange. While I couldn't grasp the scout's language, the general's questions and the interpreter's replies allowed me to infer the gravity of the report. That morning, the general wore a blue-gray flannel shirt, buckskin trousers, and high boots, topped with a regulation cavalry hat. His famous blond hair was neatly cut, shorter than in the past, but not as long as it had once been. Before long, he swung onto his horse and rode bareback through camp, speaking softly with his officers and issuing orders. By 8:30, the troops were prepared to march, with scouts having already moved ahead. We followed shortly after, advancing cautiously. I rode close behind the general, roughly 2 yards to his rear. After nearly 2 hours, we halted at a deep ravine. The general departed with the scouts, leaving me with the adjutant. This was when he climbed to the ridgeline to observe the Sioux encampment Bloody Knife had described. His absence was lengthy. When he returned, reports confirmed fresh pony tracks nearby, proof the Sioux were aware of us. Immediately, he ordered me to blow the officer's call, which I obeyed. This signaled the loss of surprise. Stealth was no longer necessary. For 2 days, we'd avoided trumpet signals and moved silently to evade detection. Now the circumstances demanded action. The officers assembled swiftly, conferring in hushed tones, while the enlisted men stood apart. Once dismissed, they returned to their units. We pressed forward, crossing the ridge by noon. The general murmured something to the adjutant, inaudible to me, and motioned left. Soon after, Captain Benteen and 3 companies peeled away in that direction, including my own. The regiment divided further. Colonel Reno took 3 companies to the left, while General Custer led 5 to the right. I rode directly behind him as we traced a shallow creek feeding into the Little Bighorn. Reno's detachment advanced on the opposite bank, while we kept to the right. Scouts periodically arrived with updates. The general would halt to listen, then occasionally spur ahead to assess the terrain. At intervals, Reno's troops drifted out of sight, only to draw near again, close enough for the general to wave his hat, signaling them to join our flank. We soon encountered a smoldering burial scaffold holding a warrior's remains, set alight by our Indian scouts. On a nearby rise, Scout Fred Gerard noticed figures retreating toward the river and alerted the general, insisting they were fleeing. The general ordered the scouts to pursue, but they balked. Instead, he summoned Colonel Reno and directed the adjutant to relay orders. Reno was to ford the river and assault the village. The general pledged to reinforce him from the opposite flank, with Benteen targeting the center. Reno's companies broke into a trot toward the river. We shadowed them briefly before swinging right and galloping downstream, pausing only once to let the horses drink. The general pushed us relentlessly. Within a mile or two, we ascended a broad hill overlooking the valley. After skirting its base, we halted. The general led me to the summit, where the village sprawled across the far riverbank. Though the full scale wasn't apparent, hundreds of lodges dotted the landscape. No warriors were visible, just women, children, and livestock. The general seemed both startled and triumphant, declaring the Sioux must still be asleep. We saw no sign of Reno's men from that height. I'm certain the general missed them too. After sweeping the area with his binoculars, he wheeled in his saddle and boomed, "We've got them this time!" He swept off his hat and swung it toward the soldiers gathered below, shouting, "Hurrah, lads! They're ours! We'll finish this and be back at camp by nightfall." After descending, he exchanged quick words with the adjutant about what he'd seen from the heights. We set off again at a rapid clip until reaching a deep gully running toward the river. The general indicated the path and called me forward. We'd covered about a mile from the hill at alternating trots and gallops, likely 3 miles from where we'd parted with Reno. "Orderly," he commanded, "ride to Colonel Benteen. Push your mount to its limits. Tell him it's a major encampment and I require immediate reinforcement with ammunition packs." He delivered this in one breath. My "yes, sir" was barely out when the adjutant interrupted. "Wait, orderly." He hastily scrawled the message in a pocket journal, ripped out the page, and thrust it at me. "Make all speed to Benteen. Follow our back trail. Return if you can do so safely. Otherwise, remain with your unit." My horse was spent, but I drove it onward. My final glimpse of the column showed them plunging into the ravine, the gray horse troop at their center, all at full charge. Following orders, I retraced our path and within minutes was climbing back toward the lookout point. Before reaching the summit, gunfire erupted behind me. Whirling around, I saw warriors emerging, some shooting, others flourishing buffalo hides. They'd been concealed the whole time. As I neared the crest, Boston Custer came tearing toward me. He reined up just enough to cry, "The general's position?" I gestured behind me. Just beyond that ridge, before he vanished at a gallop, the last living sighting of him. From the hilltop, Reno's embattled forces came into view. The transformation was staggering. Where 15 minutes earlier the general and I had seen empty plains, now warriors flooded the landscape like a sudden tide. The valley that had appeared peaceful now teemed with movement as hundreds emerged from concealment, their numbers swelling by the moment. Reno's men, who had advanced with such confidence, now fought in desperate clusters as the Sioux and Cheyenne closed around them. The speed of this reversal left me stunned. In the time it took to deliver a message, the battle's entire character had changed. I spurred my exhausted horse toward Benteen's position, the sounds of combat growing fainter behind me, but the image of those swarming warriors burned into my memory. The warriors had formed a deadly ring around Reno's dismounted soldiers, who now fought in scattered defensive positions. Their numbers seemed endless, but I couldn't pause to count. My orders demanded haste. As I rode away, the final sight burned into my memory. Reno's men falling back while maintaining their desperate fire. Several warriors spotted my retreat and opened fire. About 5 shots whizzed past me miraculously, finding no mark, though I later discovered my horse had taken a round in the hip. The scorching midday sun baked the plains as my exhausted, wounded animal labored onward. Though uncertain of Benteen's exact position, I pressed forward, retracing our path to the watering hole where I began searching. Eventually, I discerned Benteen's approaching battalion. By then, my pace had slowed to a trot, my mount nearly spent. Spotting the column, I frantically waved my hat and tried to spur forward, but the wounded animal could give no more. As I closed the distance, I saw Benteen riding well ahead of his troops with his trumpeter, while Captain Weir trailed several hundred yards behind with his company. Saluting sharply, I delivered both message and verbal orders about the village's size and the urgent need for reinforcements. When Benteen demanded, "Where's the general now?" I explained we'd seen fleeing warriors and assumed Custer had already attacked. I attempted to report Reno's engagement, but Benteen cut me off, noticing my horse's injury. "Exhausted?" he remarked sharply. "Look at his hip." Only then did I see the bloody wound. "Fortunate it struck your horse and not you," he observed as Weir arrived. After reviewing the message, Benteen ordered me to rejoin my company. They provided a fresh mount, and I fell in with my unit just as the ammunition packs arrived nearby. The sounds of distant battle continued echoing across the plains as we prepared to move out. The supply train remained visible about a mile behind us, its mules struggling to maintain pace. We pushed forward faster than the burdened pack animals could match, and soon they disappeared from sight, only a lingering dust trail marking their progress. That concludes today's installment of Forgotten History Central. Remember to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and enable notifications so you never miss an episode. Your support helps our growing community of history enthusiasts thrive. Until next time, keep exploring the past with us.